friends, another deck review slash walkthrough for you, and this is the Bon.Sequitur, B-O-N, Sequitur, like non sequitur, but Bon, Tarot, by Zephyr Pfotenhauer. I'll spell it for you. Pfotenhauer at Bon.Sequitur, Bon.Sequitur, Sequitur.com. First edition. All right. I saw this on Instagram. I immediately thought it was super charming. And it is. And I quite like it. And it's a square deck. And I don't have many square tarot decks. And I used it for my blog this week. And it's a Wade Smith deck, but I think it's just really cool. It's using kind of the print screening, both sort of methodology and inks. And so there are some restrictions on the colors you can achieve when you're using, like, here's the set number of colors I can overlap. Not really unlike old editions of Wade Smith. So you're going to get kind of a limited color palette, but it's a bright one. It's a fresh one. It's a summery one. And so just things about it. I think it reads nicely. I think it shuffles nicely. It's cool to have a square deck. I don't have that many others. I think there are some fun interpretations of the cards like this. And there's not really cards that I don't like, and there are a lot that I really do. So I think it's kind of just a great tarot deck overall. Like, I really think it's quite cool. I like the High Priestess, which I typically don't like. I love this Empress. I like that she's sort of bored. I really like this Emperor for some reason. I don't know what it is. Even the Hierophant. Just really dig it. I think maybe it's that neutrality thing that I'm sort of... I mean, if you can call a Hierophant or an Emperor neutral. The Lovers. So we can get some really kind of representational stuff, and then stuff that's somewhat artistic and non-representational or abstracted in some way. And I love this sort of... these shapes and this sort of dragon. I just think it's a very cool experience to read with. And I'm trying to think of other square decks that I have. There's that little, like, the tarot kit. Ari Weisner's deck, I think I have that. And the there's a couple alts in this deck. So we have Strength and Fortitude, or Courage and Fortitude. I've kept them in. I don't know which one to choose. Maybe I'll keep them both in. I don't know. But I think they're both cool. The Hermit. So what was I saying? Ancient... It's like one of those ancient culture decks, or the world... It's a square deck. It's US Games. It went out of print for a while, and then they came back with this giant edition of it in typical US Games fashion. Didn't bother to ask anyone what they wanted. They just did what they thought we wanted. Justice... The Hanged One. Again, this is the thing I really wish creators would stop doing. Like, it's just a thing for me. I know it's probably super popular with everyone who isn't me, but the Hanged Man is not supposed to be hanging that way. And so when it's yoga or meditation, it's not what that card is. It's not a perspective shift. The perspective shift happens because you're doing something you don't want to be doing. You are suffering a situation. Now, you know, I guess if you don't like doing yoga, then this is that. So maybe that makes total sense. But I get the sense that a lot of people who use these kinds of meditative things, and this comes from the Crowley tradition for sure. Like, it's a thing. I get it. I get why people do it. Just personally for me, the Hanged Man is about consequences. It's about the results of an action. You know what I mean? It can be about carriage of justice. It can be about miscarriage of justice. But it's almost always the consequence of an action. And this just isn't that same thing. So that's how I feel about all decks who do this. Not just this one, just putting it out there. This is why I mean when I say love this death card. When I say that when I say the card, or the image on the card isn't the art, or the image on the card isn't the card, what I mean, and I say this a lot, what I mean, I guess, is that the image on the card is an interpretation of an idea. The idea is the card. You can't put every idea into one card. So every deck creator puts their idea of that card in the card. But as a reader, it's the idea of death that matters. And the image is an interpretation of it that may or may not be contextually relevant in a reading, if that makes sense. So it's the idea of deathiness that I'm reading, contextualized to some degree by the, or often to a big degree by the image, right? But it's not, the image is a judgment, a value judgment on the idea of the card. Like the Hanged Man, right? So it's a value judgment of what that card's idea is. And when one of the reasons why as readers we don't like a deck often is that too many of the cards have ideas or interpretations or judgments of cards that don't line up with our own. I'm just noticing, and I did not notice this before, the numbers of them, I thought the majors weren't numbered, but they are. They're actually kind of hidden in, like, if you're like a theater person of a certain age, the Hirschfeld drawings in the New York Times used to have Hirschfeld's daughter's name, Nina, hidden in them. And you can see there's the 13 hidden in the vein, the bones. Here's like a tattoo of the 14. So the numbers are there. So when we don't like a deck, usually it's because too many of the cards have a different interpretation of the same idea. And so the idea doesn't translate to us. I wrote in my blog this week, and it's actually kind of what the whole blog became about, and I'll tease that, you can read the blog, that the way that I know a reader is really an intuitive reader is if they can read with any deck. Read the blog to find out. Love this tower card. I don't know why. It just looks like a anthropomorphized, and I just think it's a delight. 'Tis a delight. The Shard, I really like the majors a lot. I think it's just a great deck. I really do. I don't really have much negative to say about it. Yeah, it's quite delightful. There's a couple There's a couple additional cards, which I probably will not keep in, but I did put them in here for the walkthrough. The Labyrinth and the Garden. I'm not opposed to either of these, for sure, so maybe I'll leave them in. Fuck it. So now we get into the suits. And so it's interesting, the suits, there was a moment where I thought, I want to do a tarot deck. And I've got enough kind of, like, experience with vector art, because I did my Halloween deck, using vectors. And so I thought, anyway, after I finished that, many of the interpretations that this creator came up with are similar to ones that I had. And so I just love that it's kind of like that. There's a thing in Elizabeth Gilbert's book Big Magic where she talks about, like, an idea comes to visit you, but it doesn't stay if you don't work with it, and it may float away to somebody else. And so the ideas that I had for some of those cards didn't go anywhere. They just didn't get past, like, initial iterations or sketches, and it's like they floated away to other people, you know what I mean? Not that they were mine. They floated to me first, you know, and then I'd never sustained them. So we get a pretty standard issue Wade Smith for the most part, but there's some nice adjustments that I think are cool. And this kind of dancey Five of Wands in particular. I love this Six of Wands for some reason. Like, it just is giving fairy tale. But also, there's that scene in the movie Memoirs of a Geisha. It's a super problematic movie, but I'm sorry, I do love it. Where they're driving through this bamboo forest, and it's just this stunning... That's the problem with that movie, is, like, the acting is so good, the performances are so good, the cinematography is so good. It's the, like... the male gaziness of it, and the, like, all Asians can be Japanese of it, you know what I mean? Like, those things, the white gaziness of it. But I do love the movie. I'm sorry, and I don't watch it anymore. But it was a beautifully filmed and acted movie. Seven of Wands, Eight of Wands. One of the things that the creator does is sort of use the print screening process to offset some of the images or to make them look a little fuzzy. Not fuzzy. I mean, the example that reminded me of it was in one of the previous... Yeah, this. So this is kind of an extreme example of it, but some in smaller degrees do that. And it's just interesting. I like to understand how artists do what they do, and there's something really nice about the wood textures in this deck that I love. Here's the page. I just noticed the salamanders on the pants, which comes right from the Waite Smith deck. The Knight of Wands. Love this queen. Slay. I quite like this king. Reminds me of a friend of mine, actually. You know, it also reminds me a little bit of Tony from the World Divination Association. Like that kind of, like, vibe and the hair. And the salamanders in the cloak, or is it a cloak, or it looks sort of like a cloak draped over the throne. I love peacocks too, like the peacocks in there. Like, my sofa is peacock green, like that peacock green blue teal. It's my favorite color. Ace of Cups, Two of Cups. There's some really nice nods to the Waite Smith. This is just kind of delightful and hilarious and fun. And then we get something that's very different. And I just think it's wonderful. I really do. I quite like it. I don't have any major issues with it. I don't think there are any cards I don't particularly like. I don't think there are any cards that like don't feel like the deck. Love this Knight of Cups. The Queen of Cups. Not maybe my favorite Queen of Cups as an idea. Like, I get where it's going. There's a thing of, like, because she's this sort of carving on the boat, there's a static quality to the card that I don't necessarily assess, but, like, that's kind of maybe reading a little too into it. But again, like, there are times where that can come in, right? Because the image isn't the card, but the image on the card is context. So the context is what I rely on, not the image. The image is one of the contexts. And it may come into play. Just like the keyword, just like the element, just like the number. I'm more reliant typically on the keyword, the number and the element rather than the keyword or the image, but they're all there. You know, they're all there for me. This is another one where it was like, this is kind of more or less very much what I had for this card. So, I love this. Too. It reminds me of Peter and the Wolf, the like Tchaikovsky ballet. I think that's the music, right? It's how you learn about leitmotifs as a kid. The Nine of Swords. I think it's what Leonard Bernstein used. So yeah, Page of Swords. Take them. Really like this Queen of Swords. She came up in the blog post this week, so I'll link that below. King of Swords, sort of Roman deal, and then Penties. And so this theme of these, this is the back, this shows up. It's the box, it's all over the place. I dig it. Two of Penties, three of Penties. This is a really cool 5. I was writing this week and I got stuck and I just drew a bunch of cards. And I said, I don't know, this seems like too obvious an answer to like as an inspiration. And then I sort of didn't then take them literally. I just kind of, I don't know, I just let them trigger ideas, and they gave me what I needed. It was interesting. I don't know how to describe what happened. It was like, I kind of, so people keep telling me this looks like me. He's much thinner than I am, and would need to be much taller as well, but I do not resemble that. Yeah, it was like they were inspiring without being literal interpretations of the cards. And that actually is, now that I think about it, sort of another thing that this week's blog post is about, which is listening to the reading, not imposing on the reading. And that's sort of what the reading was talking about. It's like receiving the reading rather than doing the reading. So it's about receptivity. Page, knight, queen. I love this king. Now, the color palette makes it look like there is no representation in this deck. There is. It's just that you don't get natural skin tones. And so the people in the deck are usually one non-natural skin tone or paper white. When you look at them closely, you can see that their facial features, their bodies, etc., show you more, in some cases, not all, about, maybe their ethnicity, their origin, etc. It's a limitation of the color palette and the process. Now, is that for you? That's a valid question and something, you got to deal with. So I want to point that out from that regard. I sometimes feel like I'm saying the same thing I've been saying for 10 years, and nothing is changing really, which isn't true, but anyway, that's not the point of this video. This point of the video is this deck. So I'm going to just do a shuffle and a read, just a pull, and I'll do my 9 card, because I think it's well suited to that. I don't read reversals, and so I don't read cards in a square deck that aren't oriented up and down, right? Or in its intended orientation. But you could do that, sort of like a round deck. An interesting thing I just thought of, too, would be to eliminate from a spread any card that comes up wonky, as saying, I don't belong here. I was a placeholder for silence. I think that, I guess that's what I want to impart now to people, I guess, is kind of my divinatory message now, is to become a reader, you just allow things like that to occur to you and then follow the impulse. It's like, what I'll do after the blog, because I don't want to I really enjoy writing that, so I don't want to give it away, in the sense of tell you what I wrote. In that blog, I define what I think an intuitive reader really is. And it's nothing crazy, it's nothing offensive, I don't think. But it's not looking at a picture of the Six of Wands and saying, oh, nostalgia, right? That's not intuitive reading. It's a way to learn intuitive reading, but it's not intuitive reading. All right. Boink. So I love shuffling cards, and so I want to shuffle them constantly. For folks with ADHD, I've found that I'm not alone in this, that there's a tendency to really you need something to do with your hands, and shuffling cards is a really satisfying thing to do. It's just not a very quiet thing to do. And so sometimes when I'm at work or I'm working from home, the tendency is to want to reach for a deck and start shuffling, and then I'm on a conference call and I realize I'm shuffling cards, and that might sound odd to someone who does not know what kind of cards I might be shuffling, and might even sound odd to someone who does know what kind of cards I'm shuffling. This spread is reminding me of something that I quite love about really strong color palettes, which is the way that we almost get a mini spread within a spread, because this color palette here, these 4 cards, are so richly blue, and this particular shade of blue, and the Chariot kind of gets in there too, so we return to that, but the rest of the cards aren't that. And so it's almost like this is a mini reading within this larger reading. And to me, again, it's just being open to that idea, right? So when I don't have a clear place to start in a reading, I'll usually go to where my eye seems to be pulling me. Now, in this spread, it's inevitably towards the middle, and I am a person who starts in the middle and tends to work out from there. When I did my blog post, I only used 4 cards in this square, because I thought it was a perfect, thing for a square deck. 4 cards, 4 sides. What was I saying? And anyway, it didn't have a clear starting place, so I just looked at the card. But in this reading, it does give me kind of a clear starting place. This sort of mini spread within the spread. I'm not going to read it, but the point being that, like, I mean, this is already a long video. I'm not going to read it. The point being, like, experience the cards before you start telling them what they mean, and you're going to find pretty cool shit. I promise. So, yeah, anyway, I think this looks gorgeous in a reading. I think the squareness is not an impediment to me in any way. And sometimes weirdly shaped decks, like, I like them in concept, but in theory, in practice rather, they're not ideal for me. Like, round decks, I just find irritating as shit, because they're a pain in the ass to shuffle. They never are oriented right. They look weird in a square. They look weird in most spreads. So while I kind of love the idea of a round deck, I don't like them in readings. So, anyway, that's the Bon.Sequitur deck by Zephyr Fotenhauer, and first edition, and it's available. It's available now. I'll put her link in the description, but it's Bon.Sequitur.com. There you go. I hope you love it. Take care. Be well. We'll talk soon.